Greetings everyone, my name is Dr. Jason Freeman and I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. So I made this video primarily for two groups of people. The first group are non-liberals, which include conservatives who are absolutely flummoxed by the idea that any reasonable person would become a liberal. This might include pro-life evangelicals, free market capitalists, or even recent immigrants who still see America as a shining city on the hill. These are people who find part or all of what they perceive to be liberal ideology to be fundamentally flawed. The second group are liberals who are questioning what does it actually mean to be liberal in the current political environment. In this video, I'm going to try to help out both groups by laying out 5 elements that I feel are fundamental to what it means to be a liberal in 2025 America, as well as 5 books that describe each element in detail. So the first fundamental element to being an American liberal in 2025 is the need to fight for LGBT plus rights. It's been a little over 50 years since the American Psychological Association removed homosexuality from its list of psychopathologies. And it's been a little over 20 years since the Supreme Court ruled that anti-sodomy laws were unconstitutional. And would allow both these changes to occur were active protests and legal challenges to laws and policies that were perceived to be discriminatory towards the LGBT plus community. Now, one book that clearly articulates why liberals feel the need to fight for LGBT plus rights in the United States is the book Queer Injustice, The Criminalization of LGBT plus People in the United States. In this book, the authors describe anti-sodomy and anti-buggery laws in colonial America, as well as the various ways that the media has demonized the LGBT plus community through queer archetypes such as the queer killer and the disease spreader. But most strikingly, it shows the various ways that members of the LGBT plus community have been victimized by the police, the courts, and the prison system. And even if your religious ideology doesn't allow for the existence of people who are born gay, lesbian, or trans, you'll come away from this book with a deeper understanding of the conditions that led to the modern LGBT plus rights movement. The second fundamental element of being an American liberal in 2025 is the belief that systemic racism still exists. Systemic racism is a form of racism that's pervasively and deeply embedded in and throughout systems, laws, written or unwritten policies, entrenched practices, and established beliefs and attitudes that produce, condone, and perpetuate widespread unfair treatment of people of color. Historical examples of systemic racism include various slave codes, Jim Crow segregation in the American South, as well as the apartheid system in South Africa. As a sociologist, I would argue that there's overwhelming evidence that systemic racism continues to exist in various U.S. institutions, including the criminal justice system, the American educational system, and the U.S. government. One book that tries to make the case that systemic racism is still a problem in America in the 21st century is The New Jim Crow: Mass Incarceration in the Age of Color Blindness. In the book, the author Michelle Alexandra describes the many parallels between slavery, Jim Crow segregation, and the rise of mass incarceration as a result of the war on drugs. Now, I first assigned this book to one of my classes in 2018, and I continue to use it because many of the issues highlighted in the book are still major problems today. So even if you like Tim Scott and argue that America is not currently a racist country, after reading this book, you'll at least have an understanding of why people say that it still is. A third fundamental element of being an American liberal in 2025 is the idea that having a strong federal government that intervenes in the lives of individuals is a good thing. Now, one idea that we've heard over and over again over the years from American conservatives is that we have to end the era of big government, meaning that we have to reduce the size and the power of the federal government. And this is typically accompanied with arguments for tax cuts. Now, there are many books that make a case for a strong interventionist government, but none do a better job than Paul Krugman in the book End This Depression Now. Krugman is a professor and economist who won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 2008. It was also in 2008 that the U.S. faced one of the worst economic downturns in its history. In reaction to what Krugman viewed as an inadequate response to the economic crisis, he wrote this book detailing why significant Keynesian response to the economic downturn, marked by a large economic stimulus in the form of government spending, was needed to save the U.S. economy. He used the example of government spending in the 1930s and 40s as part of the New Deal and later World War II, and its role in dragging the U.S. economy out of the Great Depression. I find this book to be one of the most unapologetic books I've ever read for what conservatives will call big government. And while I'm not arguing that you should become a Keynesian or even that Krugman was right about the need for a larger stimulus, I would argue that this book gives you a deeper understanding for why some people, liberals in particular, tend to support a larger, more interventionist federal government. I hope you're enjoying the video, but before we go any further, I just want to quickly shout out my Patreon page, Dr. Jason Freeman Reacts. On the page, I have full, unedited reactions from movies such as the classic 1995 film, Dead Presidents, and the 2020 film, A Quiet Place Part 2. I also have reactions for entire seasons of shows, including Season 2 of House of the Dragon, and the first season of Doctor Who on Disney+, starring Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson. And for those of you who purchase my highest tier, you'll be receiving a few tokens of my appreciation, including a mug, a tote bag, and some clothing with a Diaspora Dispatch logo designed by yours truly. To get access to all this, just go to my Patreon page and sign up for one of the tiers. You can find a link for it in the description of this video, or just type patreon.com/DRJASONFREEMAN. Thank you for listening. Now back to the video. The fourth fundamental element of being an American liberal in 2025 is viewing abortion as a women's health issue. The one interesting fact about abortion in America is that it wasn't always the divisive issue that it is now. In the 19th century, abortion was legal before it was known as the quickening. No, not that quickening. The quickening was the first detectable fetal movements. In fact, there were advertised medications that would induce abortions in newspapers. What changed all this was a campaign by doctors to make abortion illegal. Some historians say this was a means to undermine the role of midwives, which some doctors saw as competition. Even after abortion was made illegal, there were those who actively helped women who sought abortions receive them clandestinely. The book, The Story of Jane, the legendary underground feminist abortion service, describes some of these clandestine efforts. Regardless of where you fall on the issue of abortion, this book provides insights into the thinking of women who sought abortions, as well as those who put themselves at risk, helping those women obtain those abortions. It also reveals how much power men, including husbands and healthcare professionals, had over the healthcare decisions of women before Roe v. Wade. For example, in order for a woman to get an abortion before Roe v. Wade, a doctor, typically male, had to deem the procedure medically necessary. If you want to understand why so many people see abortion as a women's healthcare issue, you should read this book. The fifth fundamental element of being an American liberal in 2025 is the belief that it is all of our responsibility to help the poor. Over the years, liberals have championed a wide variety of anti-poverty initiatives, including fighting for a federal minimum wage, as well as government-funded healthcare. The ultimate goal of these programs is to ensure that there aren't people in our society who lack the basic things that are seen as necessities. The book Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City makes a case for one particular The book Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City makes a case for one specific type of anti-poverty program, which is a universal housing voucher. In the book, the author, Matthew Desmond, describes the day-to-day struggles that poor African Americans and poor whites face as they try to keep a roof over their head. He also describes the many systemic obstacles that renters face that allow them to be exploited by predatory landlords. Like many liberals, he sees poverty as a public shame, something that we're obligated as good people to address. So even if you're of the mindset that the poor will always be with us, or that we should give a hand up, not a handout, or even that the free market will ultimately take care of poverty, this book will at least allow you to see why the other side of the ideological divide is so passionate about the need for these large anti-poverty federal programs. Now, if you found that video interesting and or informative, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please share this video. And if there are other aspects of politics you want me to cover on this channel, please leave those suggestions in the comment section below. Thank you all for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day.